Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the vlog. Today on the vlog, we're talking about starting things. The way I've approached starting things and doing things has changed. A wise friend of mine was talking to God about how he was struggling with what God was asking him to do and wanting more things to happen or things to change. And God said to him, whatever you start in your own strength, you have to sustain in your own strength. I've been going on a walk every morning, asking Jesus if he sees me. That if you're doing something because you think you should be doing it, then you gotta sustain the grace. That editing I was just doing is something that God told me to do over a year ago to help this ministry. And it's a lot of work every day. And I wouldn't be able to do it if it wasn't for the fact that the Lord told me to do it. Been stressed this week related to trying to do it in my strength instead of resting in the fact that he told me to do it and asking him how. Like right as you started talking, before we even started to pray, the Lord just like started shouting in my head, you need a story. What's going on over here?
You're right. Could use your help with the kids. Chapter 8.
Pool is getting green. Oh no. Working on your book.
Sticking the camera in my face all the time.
The audience is going to be like, when your book finally comes out, they're going to be like, I'm going to buy this book. I watched Natasha write it. I'm learning faithfulness, and I haven't learned it yet, but I actually understand what I'm learning and how to learn it, not just that I have a problem.
And the course that's once Phil posted Hearing God Together, which is particularly focused for stewards on how to facilitate hearing God in a group.
I am pondering this story that I'm telling tonight at pizza night. We're not going to have as many people there, but I'm telling the story of how God has been working on my heart this week. But this is the story of this vlog, is this challenge of like actually pulling the stories together, actually getting Tasha on this vlog with me. The story is all about tension and resolution. There's a moment in every story where the thing that's been causing you to feel tight gets released, and so you need in the story to talk about what got you tight, how you are tight, and then how that got fixed, how that got resolved, what happened that caused it to go away. Like maybe you like a girl and the resolution of the story is you ask her out, she says yes. Or maybe you want to win a championship in your favorite sport and you work your whole life for it, and then you do, or you don't, and you get changed by that resolution of it happening or not happening. And that's kind of what we're doing in this channel, and what we're doing with our lives is like, how can we tell stories? And not just can I tell a good story, but can I tell a story that is God's story that he wants to tell, his perspective. His thoughts are not our thoughts, his ways are not our ways. So what does he see when he looks at your story, when he looks at my story? What's his perspective? And when we tell stories from his perspective, when we understand what he's doing in our lives, we have the potential to increase faith, to change the way we see God, the way other people see God, and to lean into the story that he's inviting us on. The story this week is actually about a little bout that I had this week with anxiety. And it started on Monday night when we had a call with our friends in Texas. Great. The Lord's connected us together, and what we're leaning into is hearing God together and obeying God. And they have apparently more faith than us. And they felt as they were praying, the Lord leading him to quit his job. They're believing the Lord for a company that doesn't exist yet, that they're just obeying. What do you want us to do next, Lord? And we're watching them.
Every week.
We're watching them. We're meeting with them every week, praying with them, and they're not out of money per se, but they're spending through their savings, but they're praying about everything. They're praying and asking the Lord, and the Lord's telling them to do this, and so they're doing it. And as I'm listening to them, I'm just getting really nervous for them. And as I wrestled it out, I realized that I was struggling to trust God myself, and the Lord's asking us to do some things that are a little bit risky. And I'm sitting here saying, like, I don't know if I can trust God. Like, is He going to provide for me? And I had a conversation with my son Benjamin this week, and I will tell you about the conversation in a minute. I want to stop for a second and tell a story that I heard growing up as a kid in my family. And this story is about my grandfather, my mom's dad. And he tells the story of when he enlisted, he went to basic training, and then he was basically recruited to become a pilot. And at this time, he was dating my grandmother, and my grandmother was visiting him, and he was basically getting sent all over the U.S. to different camps, and my grandmother would follow him. And they got married on a weekend, and then he went back to his dorm and didn't get to see her again for a week. But his training developed, and he got to the point where he had his test to take, and he failed. And they thought, something went wrong. What's going on here? This is weird. So he took the test again, and he failed again. And the instructor's like, this is ridiculous. And they wouldn't ever give you a third chance at the test, but his instructor's like, I just know this was a mistake. So he got him a third test, and he failed again. You can be a bombardier or you can be a navigator. Right as he passes navigator school, the war ends. But he never went to war, and they say 60% of the pilots that were sent off to war didn't return. My mom and her 6 siblings, and then all of us grandkids, we'd gather every year and we'd remember the fact that we all could just not be here if it wasn't for him failing the pilot's test 3 times. And that pilot's test, it's sort of a failure on him, right? Like, he couldn't do what he needed to do. He couldn't do what he was supposed to do. And I was talking to my son, and we were doing dishes together. He said something about, I'm going to go beg to get money so that I can buy something. I can't remember what he was talking about. And I thought about it. I was like, he actually is broke. Like, he doesn't have any money. He makes $3 a week on allowance, so he has something. But in that moment, I said, you're not going to go beg. You aren't poor. I said, you're my son. And it dawned on me, I never thought about what it meant to be a son with provision, that my son is actually broke, and yet everything he needs is being provided for him. God literally holds the universe together, that my existence was based on my grandfather failing his tests, and that my perspective of things is just so small, and I don't understand that my allowance and how I've spent it or whatever, and how I'm doing as a son doesn't change the fact that I have a father who can provide everything that I need. That my failures and my successes and my journey doesn't change the fact that I'm his son, and doesn't change the fact that he's going to provide for me.
I don't know how you're going to weave the two together.
I didn't either.
No.
I told them Islam for my last.
I just got Joel's Hearing God Together course done after working on it for several months. To celebrate, I'm going to go get us some shakes from Sonic. Got to celebrate in the midst of stretching to believe the Lord in lots of categories, but got to celebrate.
I'm kind You did? Dad gave you some?